Welcome back to Fleshing It Out Career Edition. We are here with Jelaire Grillo. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Well, tell everyone, I would love to have you, talk about what your career is, what your profession is, and kind of what it entails, a description of it.
Sure. Yeah. So I work for a fairly large mortgage company. They are all over the United States, and I work in their national sales support team, which is actually their marketing department, but they like to call it a sales support team because that's what we do in our marketing roles. We support our salespeople, and I am the customer relationship manager. So any of our platforms that are technology based, that interact with our consumers and with our agents that we work closely with, I run all of those platforms. So right now I run 3 big platforms and then work on various projects, but the 3 platforms are my main focus.
And are you talking about like social media, like a Facebook account, LinkedIn?
Yeah,
like
so no, not really. We actually have a whole other person that handles that. But what I do is I helped build a CRM marketing operating system. So it's
and
kind
a
of a high
CRM is a customer relationship management
tool. Yeah. Yep.
So for if young students don't know, or they might know because more advanced technology, but a way to manage all of your clients, your relationships.
Exactly. It's a relationship builder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is kind of a hybrid version of that because it just doesn't have that CRM function that does email campaigns and database housing and organizing. That's like the true version of a CRM. This one takes it a step further and helps us bridge the gap between our mortgage professionals and our real estate agents. So it allows them marketing tools where they can together build brands. So flyers, social media platforms, single property websites to showcase their houses that they're listing. So all of that is done within that platform. And that's the biggest platform that we have. And all of our smaller platforms actually feed into the bigger one. So it's like an ecosystem of all these tools together. And this one platform sort of holds them together.
So to kind of like simplify it,
Yep.
You have a specialty in marketing, because I know that you kind of also have some side business with marketing and whatnot, and have an eye for that. So would you say this profession is for that person who really likes the creativity, networking, advertising, marketing?
Yeah, I would. And I really like the platform, because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is build relationships, right? And we're in such a tech heavy world right now that technology can get in the way of building those relationships. And this platform, while it uses technology, obviously it needs to be a technology-based platform, it really does a good job of allowing the users, whether it's the users on our end or the users that are receiving the communication, to really get down and get that human connection and keep that human connection. So we're just helping to bridge that.
It's great. It's funny how relationships and connections keep coming up over and over, no matter what field we're talking about today.
Yeah, it's important.
What kind of education, training, certifications were required for you to kind of get in this? So if someone wants to pursue a career in marketing, what does a track look like for that?
So I kind of have an unorthodox track. I've always been very creative. I've always been more on the creative side of things. So my brain always works in that space. And I didn't actually start in the finance industry. I started in nonprofits. And that's really where my heart lied. And this position presented it, well, not this exact one, but in this field presented itself to me about 9 years ago. And I was hesitant because when you have a creative brain, numbers really aren't, you kind of shy away from the numbers side of things. And I kind of jumped in. So a lot of what I do right now is almost completely self-taught. So I really fell in love with the connection building, the networking, and that building those connections with our clients and with our partners, and really took it upon myself to, go back and take some classes and really kind of dig in deep to this. And a lot of it was just on the spot learning. So I went to school and, I studied political science. Like I worked on the Hill for, 3 years. I really loved it, but it was exhausting and my creative brain wasn't being fed enough. And I knew I needed to make a switch. So I kind of jumped, and this was the jump I took. And it worked out pretty well because I'm 9 years in now. It's definitely morphed. But as far as certifications and education is concerned, I'm largely self-taught and self-directed when it comes to that.
That's great. As far as your typical day, what would an average day look like, and what are kind of some of the hours that you work? And now we're limited on time, but I would say, you've got a unique perspective because you have that 9 to 5 marketing side, but then you also have more experience with also that side. So if you wanted to answer brief, just because you are, a woman with many things that you can speak on, what does kind of the typical day look like?
Yeah. So I spend about the first 2 hours of every day doing things just for my freelance work. So my freelance clients, and that actually requires more of my creative brain because I'm designing graphics, and which is very different from what I do at the 9 to 5. And then I time block the rest of my day. It's a couple hours with the 9 to 5. It might be a half hour on the freelance. I like to give myself a lot of brain breaks. It makes me more efficient on both sides. I'm also really lucky and blessed that I have a 9 to 5 that knows what I do, and is very supportive of it. So that is also very helpful. But I spend a large part of my day building. So I brainstorm, I find ways to bridge gaps where we find communication falling off in our current system. And then the other part of my day, I spend training. So I do trainings one-on-one. I do trainings in front of large audiences, 500 people or more. So it kind of goes back and forth between the two. And I love that. So in my world, I get everything, which is wonderful.
That's awesome. Now, before the pandemic, were you working from home or were you going to the office?
I was in the office 3 days a week before the pandemic and then 2 days at home, but a lot of time out on the road, actually, traveling to different offices and different conferences. And so it's definitely been a adjustment to be at home all of the time and doing all of my training virtually. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a change. What would you say are your favorite and least favorite parts of your job with marketing?
So my favorite part is the ability to just be creative, to think outside the box. I really love talking to people that are out in the field, in whether it's my freelance or my 9 to 5, because I'm not doing the work every day. And so by hearing from them, you really get these really awesome, wonderful concepts that you can make grow. And I love starting at that point. I love a problem and being able to figure out a way to solve it. And that's fun for me. So the part that I don't love is a lot of my job is data driven because they are technology platforms and we're putting a lot of data into them. So I can't forget that the data is there. And I find that not as much fun. I would much rather be creating than sifting through data, but it is part of you need to do it in order to build the platforms. So
now, are there roles, because we've talked a lot about with these interviews of all the different personality types. So have you seen in like the marketing world where, if you're maybe like that more creative, extroverted brain, you can excel in one area of marketing, but if you have more of that analytical brain with some creativity, you could excel in another area? Are there kind of different places to win?
I think so. Yeah. So what's pretty cool about the department that I work in is we all have a specialty. Now we all cross over because we need each other to make our jobs work, but I'm all technology platforms, but there's somebody who's design, like that's all they do is design. And then there's somebody who runs social. So they're all digital marketing, social media marketing, paid ads. There's somebody who does all of the communication. So we all have a role to play, but we're all so very different. But honestly, that's what makes our team so great. We thrive off of each other. And I think you need to be different to play in those roles. Like I wouldn't play good in a communications role or maybe even in the graphic design world. I do it, but not to how that person would do it. So yeah, we're all very different.
Yeah. But I love that though, because I feel like it's just encouraging, because then you don't have to fit into a mold. It's the whole like be your best self, and you'll find a place to win. So as we wrap up part one, is there anything else career related that a high schooler could benefit from knowing about, the marketing world, or or something that you wish you would have known then at that age that you know now?
Yeah, I think what I wish I had known was to not box myself in. So I think so often we think like there is only one way to get there. And I didn't go to school for marketing. I don't have a degree in it, but I truly love it. So I dug in deep, and this is how I got to where I am right now. So don't box in, because there's multiple ways to get to one spot. And, I think that that's important to know.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of your insight on marketing, and I'm excited to jump into part two, our bonus round after this, so we can hear a little bit more. But thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we're back with part two. Just a couple quick questions to round out. So what misconceptions would you say people have about your career? So you're in marketing, to recap for everyone, but you're a little unique, because you have your, as we say, 9 to 5, which means, kind of like your day job. You have that with a company, and then you also do your own business. So I would say just marketing in general. What kind of misconceptions do people have about that?
They think design. Like they think a lot of people are like, oh, so you design stuff, you create stuff. Or younger generations are like, oh, so you do stuff on social media. And no, yes, I do, but my 9 to 5, I don't. So there's marketing. There are so many components to marketing. There are so many things that you have to do to make something happen. There's a message, there's a design, there's usually some sort of plan put in place to make sure that you're creating that connection with your audience. It goes well beyond graphics. It goes well beyond the post on social media. And I think that is a common misconception, is marketing is just design. Mm-hmm. It's what you do.
Yeah, just making a pretty picture. Yeah, there's so much more to it. What would you say someone would be surprised to learn about the marketing world?
I mean, I have to admit, I was surprised to learn how complex it was, to know how many layers there were to it. So I never knew what I do now in my 9 to 5, and now have been doing for almost 8 years. I didn't realize technology played such a vital role. I might have been one of those people that had that misconception about what marketing actually was until I threw myself into it. And so it's it definitely blew my mind, the layers to it. So, I mean, I would say that the layers were definitely, it threw me a little for a loop, I have to admit, when I first started in it. Yeah.
I think that's great for especially young adults to hear, because you kind of, instead of it being very, one dimensional, either you like graphic design or not, like it's so much more than that. So you'll find your niche. What's been the most rewarding part of your job?
There's so many rewarding parts to my job, honestly. But when you find that the right formula, we call them journeys in my world. We build these journeys for our clients and for our partners to go on. When you build that journey and the people are making honest, good connections, and there are results coming from them, that's the most rewarding part, because you've worked really hard to help them build these relationships. And you use technology to do it, but on the same side of that coin, they've also done it by building an actual human connection with somebody. Mm-hmm. Technology was just the bridge to get them there.
Yeah. And that's definitely the future, though. I mean, the pandemic for all of us, I mean, the fact that we're doing this interview on Zoom, but it's a real connection and a real conversation. So
exactly. Yep.
And last question is, what kind of, gifts, talents, interests that someone could have that would be a good fit for the marketing world?
So I would just say, if you can think outside the box, we're actually in the middle right now of interviewing people for a new role on our team. And it's kind of an undefined role. So this person really gets to build that role from the bottom up. And as we interview people, what we really want to know is not necessarily what is your experience? What is your training? Tell us about your education. What we want to know is tell us your ideas. You know, like what would you do in this situation? How would you improve upon this where we are lacking right now? Think outside the box. And I would honestly say, don't ever be afraid to give an idea. Like never, because maybe it's not the idea, but it might lead to what the idea is. And so just my advice to anybody is always to lean in. So if it feels good and you're like, this feels like a really great thing, then lean in. So whether it's an idea, it's a job, or whatever it is.
Because it'll lead to the next thing.
Exactly.
I'm a big believer in that. This may not be the thing. And especially with careers, when you're trying to talk to, especially to young people, there's all this pressure of having to have the exact right path. And that's such a common
don't need
thread.
it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't need it. So, I went from working on the Hill to working for nonprofits to working for a mortgage industry. So, and I think I have found my home now, but it took some time to get there. So
Jelaire, thank you so much for your time. And if people want to get in touch with you, especially in the Northern Virginia area or whatnot, can they find you and whatever business you want to promote?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. It's at Jelaire Ann. So Jelaire's exactly how you see it, Jelaire, and then Ann, Anne. So you can follow me there. And yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.